terrorist attack that kills thousands to a fire that destroys a single home, the American Red Cross is there. Tonight we go behind closed doors of the organization that has come to symbolize help and hope in times of crisis.
On this special edition of Behind Closed Doors, we'll take you inside the American Red Cross at strategy meetings in their underground command center.
We just went into gear. I mean, this is something we know how to do.
On scene with emergency workers at the site of disasters.
Everything they need and anything, our response is that we will find it for them and provide it.
With their volunteers bringing comfort to heroes at ground zero.
The Red Cross is that haven, that safe place where they're taken care of mentally, physically, spiritually.
It's the untold story of how the Red Cross responded in the nation's hour of greatest need. This is how we think of the Red Cross, lending a helping hand when it is needed the most, just as they have for more than 120 years.
Thank you.
From hurricanes and floods to earthquakes and tornadoes, the sight of the familiar Red Cross symbol is reassuring and comforting. Their mission has always been the same.
It's very simple and it's very elegant, to prevent and relieve human suffering.
Private and nonprofit, the American Red Cross is not part of the government. The Red Cross is run by 34,000 paid staff, but it relies on more than 1 million volunteers from every corner of America.
It's important to give back. It's important to give back to your nation, to your country, to your community. And this is my way of giving back.
Just 2 weeks after the September 11th attacks, I met with Dr. Bernadine Healy, at the time the president and CEO of the American Red Cross. We spoke in a Red Cross tent a short distance from the World Trade Center. Smoke still hung over lower Manhattan. Estimates of how many thousands were dead or missing were just as cloudy.
If we lose 100 people, I mean, it's a tragedy, of course. One person's a tragedy. But to lose almost 7,000 people is a disaster like we have never seen in American history on our soil.
This is the story of how the American Red Cross answered the call. The skyline of New York City, instantly recognized. The Twin Towers of the World Trade Center, among the tallest skyscrapers in the United States. On a typical day, some 50,000 people work here. But on Tuesday, September 11th, 2001, the World Trade Center became known as Ground Zero. Tuesday morning, American Airlines Flight number 11, with 92 people on board, struck the North Tower of the World Trade Center. While we watched, frozen to TV sets, the local Red Cross chapter was rolling out to what they thought was a devastating plane crash, but it turned into the unthinkable. Just blocks from the White House, Dr. Bernadine Healy was at the Red Cross Washington, D.C. headquarters.
And then when that plane circled around the tower and crashed right into it, we just looked at each other and said, terrorism. We kept saying, we were told, it's not a matter of if, but when. And we all looked at each other and said, this is the when. And then 20 minutes later, we heard the Pentagon had been hit. And of course, here we are in the middle of Washington. We raced to one of our upper floors and looked out the window and we could see the flames.
This was not an accident.
As always, the reaction of the Red Cross was immediate.
We don't know where it's going.
And the first thing we did was, what's the blood supply? Is the dock activated? Our disaster operations center, call New York. Of course, that all is done automatically. We just went into our gear. I mean, we're experienced with this. I mean, this is something we know how to do.
In the Red Cross Disaster Operations Center, just minutes from the Pentagon, planning was already underway.
Well, just like all of America, we all came to work thinking it was going to be a normal day.
So when the first plane hit, we were watching the smoke rise, and we were figuring out a response plan in coordination with our local chapter in New York. When the second plane hit, we obviously knew that it was going to be much bigger. We were waiting to see what was going to happen next, and if and when it was ever going to end.
Just before 10, the South Tower of the World Trade Center collapsed. At 10 o'clock, United Flight number 93 crashed in rural Pennsylvania. All across the country, Red Cross staff and volunteers watched in horror, then prepared to do their jobs.
I was in the middle of a cornfield in Iowa with my best friend where she lives, visiting her. I hadn't seen her in a year.
I knew that I was going to be needed, so I logged on my computer, and sure enough, there was a request that said, get a plane ticket into New York City. So I had a plane ticket for 3 o'clock Tuesday afternoon, started to head this direction, and then they closed the airports.
So I couldn't get out. I couldn't, no planes. Couldn't even rent a truck. Called her, I couldn't even get a truck up.
10:30, the North Tower of the World Trade Center collapsed. No one knew how many people were lost in the destruction.
Come on in! Come on in! I thought we were done. I thought it was over. I've never seen nothing like it in my life.
2 airplanes have crashed into the World Trade Center in an apparent terrorist attack on our country.
If the Red Cross is in a battle against suffering, then behind this closed door is their war room, the Disaster Operations Center. Insiders call it the Dock. Located in Falls Church, Virginia, it's the nerve center of the American Red Cross. The heart of the dock is the Situation Room. Located 2 stories underground, it has its own emergency power supply, communications center, and computers for a staff of 80. The dock is manned 24/7, and they handle tens of thousands of disasters a year.
We respond to about 60,000 on average each year, and that ranges from the single-family house fire all the way to what we're seeing in New York and D.C. and Pennsylvania.
But every year, about 500 disasters are so big that local chapters need help. That's when the dock coordinates a national response.
What we do in a disaster is we set up a multi-million-dollar corporation in a matter of hours. We are mobilizing fleets and products from across the country. We're running phone lines, we're setting up computers and not having any warning about where a disaster is going to take place. I think that's the neat thing about the Red Cross, is that we have the system in place to be able to do that.
Red Cross systems, developed through years of experience, refined with exercises and simulations, were battle-tested in the field.
Now we don't need to run exercises anymore. We have a real live one here.
In New York City, the Red Cross response had already begun.
It was still very, very early. There was a lot of damage.
Thank you very much. Water, anyone?
Red Cross was already responding. The local Red Cross chapter is just amazing. It's a pretty chaotic situation, but also pretty quick response, and the whole city was pitching in, and a lot of people in shock as well.
From the dock, calls went out to chapters across the country to mobilize more troops from their bank of volunteers.
We have a national volunteer network of about 25,000 individuals from across the country who have said, sign me up, I want to be able to respond.
In this disaster, the Red Cross faced a new challenge. Thousands of volunteers and staff were left grounded.
We were still mobilizing, even though at that time there was no flights in the airspace throughout the United States.
We called upon a lot of people on the East Coast that could actually travel by car.
I came by rail and partially by air, looking out the wings of the plane and seeing F-16s guiding people in.
We have used now over 20,000 volunteers. They often come, they take their vacation time, they just come at a moment's notice. They'll drive for hours to get here. One woman I spoke to, 24 hours to get in here on the day. Started on Tuesday to come in here. She was coming from the Midwest. It doesn't matter. They come with a smile.
Even as local chapters within and around New York mobilized, the American Red Cross responded on several other fronts. This fight went well beyond the World Trade Center. Hundreds of firefighters battled the stubborn blaze at the Pentagon.
We've already received a request to provide canteen service for the emergency workers at the Pentagon for at least 3 to 4 days. We had to wait for quite some time to be sure that there wasn't a chemical or biological weapon involved. But that was our biggest fear at the beginning, was just trying to figure out what kind of weapon it was.
Here at the Pentagon, we're doing a lot of mass care work. We're feeding a lot of folks.
I've been doing a number of things, making sure that people on the inside are getting fed and getting hydrated. I mean, it's been really hot out here.
Even as the firefight continued, attention was turned to rescue and recovery of people trapped in the ruins, and the Red Cross was there.
The rescue workers come in, they eat, they're kind of quiet, they have a determined look on their face, they're ready to get back in. Their mission, the recovery mission, is an important mission, and I'm happy that we're out here supporting them. That's all right, I'm fine.
The Red Cross supported the firefighters and rescue workers with more than just food and water.
Everything they need and anything. Our response is that we will find it for them and provide it. They asked for dry socks, they asked for gloves, they asked for chapstick, they've asked for sunscreen, they've asked for meals, they've asked for mental health counseling, and we've provided all of it to them.
I mean, you know, it's comforting to know you're here, but I wanted you to know that you're not taken for granted, that we appreciate it, and you're doing great work.
Those 2 herbs cannot move. They have to remain stationary. They're not allowing anyone in there.
Even with years of experience responding to disasters, for the American Red Cross, answering the call on September 11th was unlike any other.
Did it make it any different that we're dealing with a terrorist attack?
Enormously so, for a number of reasons. First of all, when it's a terrorist attack, you don't know when it's going to end. When we have a hurricane or a flood, we're in the rhythm of it. We know, okay, this is what happens. We know in a few weeks that we'll be working with the people that we're serving to get their insurance. A fire is the same thing. We get people out, they evacuate an area. Something like this is so unexpected, and we don't know when it's going to end.
Next, into Ground Zero. How the Red Cross cared for rescue workers in New York.
Behind Closed Doors will continue in a moment here on A&E.
The deliberate and deadly attacks which were carried out yesterday against our country were more than acts of terror. They were acts of war.
From the moment the World Trade Center came under attack, the Red Cross mobilized. Behind closed doors, they immediately dispatched hundreds of trained volunteers, and within minutes, help and emergency supplies were on their way to New York City.
Cold water, ice, snacks. Careful, you're in the hot zone. When you get to Franklin, you're in the hot zone.
The Red Cross version of a war wagon is the emergency response vehicle, fondly called an ERV. Getting the ERVs to the scene of a disaster is as high-tech as satellite communications, as low-tech as red pins on a map.
Basically, this board tells us where the location is of all of our vehicles. We have about maybe 50 emergency response vehicles that are in New York right now. You can see we didn't pull a lot of emergency response vehicles from Florida because we're still in the middle of hurricane season.
In the ensuing weeks, from both fixed sites and the mobile ERVs, the Red Cross served more than 6 million meals and snacks in the New York disaster zone. What was once the World Trade Center was now known simply as Ground Zero. Among the missing, hundreds of New York City firefighters and police who rushed in to save lives. For their sacrifice at the World Trade Center, the men and women of the New York police and fire departments have been honored as a new breed of hero. It's here, at Ground Zero, that the Red Cross did some of their most vital work.
It's gotta be a living hell over there, you know? I can't imagine the police officers and the firemen are going through pulling out not only bodies but body parts, you know? So it's the Red Cross that's holding these guys up. It's the Red Cross that's allowing these guys to keep doing their job. It's the Red Cross that allows these guys to keep their strength, to keep pulling these guys out of the rubble, out of the dirt. That cup of coffee, that power bar, that those change of socks, you know, the little things and stuff given out here. It might seem small, but it's not. It's tremendous.
The Red Cross set up 2 shelters they call respite centers close to the wreckage of the World Trade Center. The shelters were a safe place for the workers at Ground Zero to rest.
We're just trying to do everything we possibly can to get them away from the scene, just even for a few minutes, to give them a chance to get a place to rest, get a place to talk to somebody, to deal with some of the issues. And that's what we think we try to do.
Just a little bit of relief from the trauma of their rescue job.
To protect the privacy of rescue workers during the painful recovery process, we agreed not to show the respite centers. But the words of volunteers who worked there paint a vivid picture.
It's 2 huge floors, and they have big baskets out of snacks and water and juices, and they can just come in for a few minutes, or they can come in and put their feet up for, you know, however long they want.
The rescue workers, worn out by their round-the-clock efforts, gave heartfelt thanks for the volunteers' support.
They look exhausted, but they're marvelous. I mean, all they kept doing was thanking us for running back and forth with trays, whereas they're the ones that are doing a marvelous job.
You can't cry. In the respite center, you can't cry. You really have to be strong. You have to smile, and regardless of what's going on in your day, you lose all that when you walk in the door. You know, you're like, what can I do? And there's nothing you can do. And they say, you know, just thanks for being here, and then they walk back out, and they go back and do it for a couple more hours.
Our role at the immediate Ground Zero disaster area is to be there to help and support the people who are doing their jobs, the police, the fire. In the case of the military, our men and women in uniform. We're there to provide a little bit of their hometown. We're there to provide them food and water and a place to sit down. So the Red Cross is that haven, that safe place, the place where they're taken care of mentally, physically, spiritually.
Even though the outlook was grim, rescue workers held on to hopes of finding anyone alive.
Climb down. No. Owen, wait.
At the same time, thousands of volunteers turned to the Red Cross and offered to help in any way they could.
When I saw the explosion at the World Trade Center, I had an idea that we were going to be in for a long, extended disaster operation, and that the need for local disaster walk-in volunteers was going to be great to help with that support.
You are now part of the American Red Cross, and many of you don't know this, but you've been a part of us many, many times in your life.
The strategy of the American Red Cross is simple and effective. Red Cross staff and volunteers who are fully trained in disaster operations are sent in first. They organize and instruct virtual battalions of local walk-in volunteers.
We have about 14,000 people from the New York City area that have come in and said, I want to help, I want to help. And we've gotten so many more phone calls than that. And we're just trying to process them and plug them into the right place that they can help, and keep the rest of them on standby in case we do need them later on.
The command center for this Red Cross relief operation is across the East River in Brooklyn, New York. Behind closed doors, the top echelon of Red Cross staffers met daily to organize the massive effort to deliver help to those who needed it most.
As you all know, we're going to be here for the long run.
Gary Miller is what the Red Cross calls the job director for the World Trade Center disaster. His staff does everything from signing up and placing volunteers.
Right now we're recruiting for data entry, clerical, general labor, someone who can help load and unload the trucks that are coming in with supplies.
To ordering truckloads of food and goods.
These folks are our logistics people. Their job is to order all the supplies that are necessary for the job and really to keep us running. Every Red Cross chapter, the volunteers and the staff are trained exactly the same way with exactly the same courses. And that's what gives us that ability to bring all these people together. And I'm kind of an orchestra leader, really. That's my job, is to help bring the pieces together once they arrive. And my staff, I have an exceptional staff.
If the generals are in Washington at the dock, then these are the commanders, and their frontline troops come in from all over.
And when I found out here that I am probably one of very few New Yorkers, they're all from all over the world, and it's amazing to me that people will come, and I ask, their truck is from Alabama, Michigan, all over, and they'll give 3 weeks of their time, they'll come here, they'll sign up for these boards for 3 straight weeks, they don't take off, and then they'll go home.
This is going to go on until Ground Zero is clear.
They have a bus that brings you back here.
Elaine Thomas came to New York from her home in Nashville, Tennessee. At the Brooklyn Red Cross facility, she is a sort of air traffic controller for volunteers.
Now realize you have to be here at 2:30. You want to check with Tim? We want you happy in what you do because we want you to come back. Doing my job, I have only seen New York on the subway to the hotel, back to here. We work 14-hour days, but the job is getting done. We're more organized every day, and pretty soon we'll have everybody trained and we all can go home.
You get more from it than really you're giving.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, it really
Thank you so much for your
You're
help.
welcome.
One of the 8 service centers the Red Cross opened is just blocks from Ground Zero. Before the attacks, this building was a union hall. The Red Cross has agreements already made so that when disaster strikes, they can quickly set up shop where they are needed.
Once the Red Cross Army of Volunteers is in place, those on the front lines begin their battle to meet the victims' most basic needs.
Once you follow me, I'll take you in through this room.
The mass care facility in the Hudson Street Center was typical of the Red Cross response.
You want help finding a place to stay? Okay, we can do that.
People who were displaced from their homes, lost their businesses, or just needed a kind word had someone to turn to.
Our focus is on the human being. Our focus is at getting someone who has suddenly faced an unexpected disaster that any one of us would be rolled over by. Get them up with dignity, with strength, and then let them go on, and maybe 5 years from now they'll turn around and they'll help someone else, maybe with us, maybe with someone else.
In any disaster, the flow of accurate information is vital. So the Red Cross set up hotlines. The volunteers in this room took a wide range of calls for help.
American Red Cross Hotline, this is Carol, may I help you?
What kind of calls are you taking? What are you doing here?
We're taking all kinds of calls. We're fielding calls on how to make donations to the American Red Cross. We're fielding calls on where to go to give blood for the American Red Cross. We're fielding calls for all of the families.
It must take an emotional toll.
It does. It's very heart-wrenching. It really is.
But it's also got to feel good to be able to help.
Right. It does. It feels real good.
Thank you.
Coming up, how the Red Cross battled the emotional damage from the terrorist attacks.
Behind Closed Doors will continue in a moment here on A&E.
Just days following September 11th, the scene near Ground Zero took on an uneasy quiet. The curious were kept away as the rescue and recovery operations continued.
A disaster leaves more than the physical destruction in its wake. Often, the emotional damage can be just as devastating, leaving deep psychological wounds that need to be healed.
On September 11th, thousands were caught up in the disaster. As the population of Lower Manhattan evacuated, many were separated in the confusion. Some ended up in hospitals. Many more were missing in the wreckage of the World Trade Center.
The mental health demands will escalate because on an airline we know, or at least we think we know, who was on the airplane. In a building, there is not nearly that kind of documentation. And so there's always the lingering hope in a family because they don't know that that loved one was in the building.
New York City was covered with missing person flyers. Worried family members and friends made heartfelt appeals, trying everything to find their loved ones.
He was a volunteer firefighter. We know that he's got a great heart, and he probably went back in to try to help more people. Maybe, we don't know. This is what he looks like. And anything that anyone can do to try to help us find him.
People are saying that there's no way anybody else can be alive in there, but I don't believe that. She's alive. We just have to find her.
Hello, emergency services.
To help reunite loved ones, Red Cross volunteers in Manhattan staffed a large phone bank.
Call from stairwell on the way out.
This is a locator hotline where they can search a centralized database for information on the missing.
This is the incoming hotline phone bank. Once they have given us information here, that information is transferred to our matching department. They're receiving information from local hospitals and any other facilities. Then we go to our callback department, which is manned completely by mental health professionals, to call back people with news if we have it, and also to call back people even if we don't have news.
I can hear you. And the people who knocked these buildings down will hear all of us soon.
You can imagine there are lots of challenges with this operation.
From the Brooklyn Command Center, the Red Cross launched teams of mental health experts.
We have thousands upon thousands of mental health professionals and spiritual care professionals coming in to assist us in this effort.
These professionals are also volunteers who donate their time and expertise. They too come from across the country.
So today will be a little frustrating.
I will be here for a while. I've been here 10 days. We kind of lose track of time during this.
We're meeting the people where they are. So if somebody's coming up to you or you see someone in distress, please, you can approach them, provide...
The magnitude of this event is far beyond anything any of us have ever gone through. But what we can share with them is that we're all going through this together.
The Red Cross anticipates that some 30% of people involved in a disaster will suffer depression.
People think about it as ending after a week or two, but the needs, the emotional needs, the healing, this can go on for months, sometimes years.
Disasters, they affect one person. Ultimately, they affect people one by one. This happens to be almost 7,000 people one by one, and their families, which multiplies that into the 20,000s, 30,000s. But disasters have a toll on people's emotional life. And the American Red Cross stays with those people. We are there for them. The cameras may go, the lights may be off, but we stay with those people who need us to be there for them.
Red Cross volunteers are not immune to the stress inflicted by the disaster.
They're affected, even though they weren't here in the city when this occurred. They're affected by the national significance of the event.
Every volunteer found their own way to cope.
You get up and you walk around and you do something to relieve yourself. You get away from the phones for a little while, get you something to eat, and then you go back to the phones and do your job.
It's just amazing the strength that people have and the inner giving that people have. And I know the mental health people are always coming up to us and saying, you know, are you all right? Is everything okay?
It's that human touch, right?
That's that human touch, you know.
New Yorkers responded to the attacks in ways only New Yorkers could.
The money you're putting in my bucket these last few days is all going to the American Red Cross. Yesterday, just alone, while being here, raised $1,400, which was amazing.
Thank you, guys!
The encouragement that we're getting from the folks in New York, the amount of people that have been lined up along the highway, the exit areas. I mean, clapping and waving American flags, and that really helps the people that are coming out exhausted. It lifts their spirits, and you feel like you want to turn around and go right back in again. That's just amazing. I've never experienced that before, and it just runs chills up and down my spine.
I think the Red Cross is doing a great job. They're helping out a whole lot. I see them around everywhere.
The Red Cross is always there for us.
When you hear the name the Red Cross, it's like a sense of relief, a feeling that people will be taken care of, that people will be looked after, that they'll get what they need. It's just a sense of security.
Next, how the nation rolled up its sleeve. Why the Red Cross faced a dilemma with the incredible rise in blood donations.
Behind Closed Doors will continue in a moment here on A&E.
The Red Cross has made a science out of being prepared, but no one could have anticipated what happened that day.
The situation on the 11th of September was so horrible that if our disaster planners had been sitting down developing a scenario, I think we might have said to them, you need to go back and be a little more realistic. I don't believe any of us were ready for something of that magnitude. It was too horrible to imagine.
Up until September 11th, we were so far ahead of the game as far as being able to respond to weapons of mass destruction. And then it seemed like in the course of one day, September 11th, we were so far behind.
When disaster hits, the American Red Cross not only mobilizes its volunteers, it mobilizes the public. Whether it's a corporation that wants to donate millions or an individual who wants to donate blood, the Red Cross is there ready to help those who want to help others.
When we're all done, you're going to introduce yourselves to each other because you're going to be here for a while. We're talking a minimum of 6-hour wait. If you can't wait today, come back tomorrow, the next day. This is not an event that's going to end tomorrow or today.
People across the country turned out to give much more than emotional support. Donations of blood to the Red Cross nearly doubled.
We are probably 35–40% more blood than we normally would have collected in the same period of time.
The Red Cross collects more than half of the nation's blood supply. They've been doing it since World War II, but never have they seen a response as overwhelming as this.
Who could be prepared for the outpouring that we saw? The Red Cross tries to always be prepared for situations like this, but this has been unprecedented. We've never seen anything quite like it.
With smoke still in the air following the attack on the Pentagon, people lined up at Red Cross headquarters to donate blood.
Got a body full of O negative.
Yeah. O negative. We should let O negatives go to the front of the line here.
They give a piece of themselves when they give a unit of blood, and this is what we have seen before, but we're seeing it in an enormous proportion today.
I couldn't make it the past 2 days because it was so busy, so I got in today and we waited to do this.
We have generally, during times of utter peace and calm, maintained that a 3-day blood supply is enough. We don't believe that's the case anymore. If we had to ship 60,000 units of blood into New York, or the Pentagon, or into Pennsylvania, we would have absolutely decimated the supplies of blood for the rest of the country. We can't choose either or. We have to have blood available for everyone who needs it.
No blood drive may have been more poignant than one organized by airline flight crews.
We're with American Airlines and we lost a few members of our family.
We don't want their passing to go in vain, and this is one way we can take a stand and to help. We feel like we can help.
The problem facing the Red Cross was not how to get people out to give blood, but how to keep them coming back.
That's one of the frightening possibilities of this entire thing. How do you keep people motivated to donate blood?
The supply of blood is a fragile one. Blood is perishable and can only be stored so long.
Blood does have a shelf life. Blood has a liquid shelf life, if you will, of 42 days. That's the red blood cells. Platelets only last 5 days.
So the Red Cross is developing a system for long-term storage of blood. Behind the closed doors of the Musser Blood Center in Philadelphia, blood is being frozen.
Frozen, it's good for 10 years. Liquid, only 42 days. So it's a big difference here.
When the project is complete, enough blood to treat more than 30,000 patients in an emergency will be held in reserve across the country.
A strategic reserve, if you will, so that we're always prepared for the unexpected emergency. This disaster is really putting us in a stronger position to be able to do that, to begin to develop that strategic reserve.
Six days after the attacks, the New York Stock Exchange reopened. It was the most visible sign that we were back in business.
Okay, when this truck comes back around, we're going to take off these red trucks.
To get help where it's needed fast, the Red Cross has strategic partnerships with corporations that donate essential items like food and water. And since day one, individuals offered help any way they could.
People are offering to donate all sorts of goods, finding out what we needed, food, water, things like protein bars, Gatorade to keep the search and rescue workers going. Also people wanting to donate as much as they could. At 7 o'clock in the morning, the day after, someone walked in, just handed me a $200 check to assist with their efforts. Someone else walked into the office and just handed over $2,000 on her way to work.
And the Red Cross reached out with offers of help. They rushed to air public service announcements, including this one with Julia Roberts.
We all have painful emotions following these hideous events. Here are some ways to get through this time of crisis. Please ask for help if you need it, and participate.
You know, it's very hard to grieve. It is very hard to heal. It is very hard to hold your children in their arms and explain to them what has happened when you're worried about paying the rent.
But there isn't a lot going on here either right now.
Who has training in either mental health or physical health?
The attacks on September 11th tested all the systems of the Red Cross.
This is the largest disaster that the American Red Cross has responded to on U.S. soil. And it's taxed all of our resources. It's not only New York City that's affected, it's the Pentagon in Washington. It's Los Angeles, which was a destination site for one of the airlines, so we had an operation there. We had 24 states that had shelter operations because of the closing of the airports for 3 or 4 days. So we were sheltering people all over the nation for that. So this has affected people everywhere.
PWJ at Rockland Psych Center. This is chapter.
Their network of local chapters is the strength of the Red Cross.
A story that necessarily hasn't been told throughout all of this is that normal disaster activity continued, and our own local chapters still had to continue to meet the needs of those victims as well.
In fact, the New York City chapter had 11 large fires the same day that they were responding to the World Trade Center incident.
Well, those are personal tragedies to those people as well.
Absolutely. Every single house fire is a personal tragedy to the people that are affected. But when you have a situation where they're going to a fire at the same time the World Trade Center is going on, that's pretty remarkable, I'd say.
Coming up, the Red Cross goes to war, staying in touch with the men and women of the armed forces.
Behind Closed Doors will continue in a moment here on A&E.
When most of us think of the Red Cross, we think of disaster relief. But the organization has another more dangerous mission. When our U.S. troops go to war, so does the Red Cross.
3, 2, 1.
On October 7th, the war on terrorism was launched. And when the United States goes to war, the American Red Cross is there. Just as they did in Desert Storm, the Red Cross provides a link between families at home and their soldiers in the field.
We're not usually in the first group of people going into a situation, but we are usually in the second and at the latest in the third wave of people going in, because the crisis at home, those things don't stop. That's life. And so we're there to keep that touch, that link with the families back home.
American Red Cross, Cortland Brown speaking. How can I help you?
If a family crisis occurs, the call goes to their Armed Forces Emergency Service Center in Falls Church, Virginia.
Okay, how about her rank?
4,000 times a day I'm taking calls relative to
personal emergencies. Many times it's a death notification, somebody's ill or somebody's having surgery, something is wrong in the community.
From this center, the Red Cross can locate the service personnel, make contact, and work with the military to get them help.
And we can reach out and find any member of the military wherever they are. They can be on a submarine, they can be on a ship at sea. Wherever they are, the American Red Cross can find them.
The Red Cross has a secure link to the Department of Defense. Behind closed doors, locked away in a room they call the Vault, they can transmit and receive classified information.
We have a secure telephone back there that allows us to speak on a secure voice up to the secret level with the military and or with our people that's deployed. There's a need to talk and gather information about where these members are going and what they will be involved with. Many times that is classified information.
When we look back on September 11th, the attacks forever changed the way we live. As a nation, we mourned and struggled to return to normal. And while thousands of Red Cross workers gave a part of their lives, that didn't mean life stopped.
We've celebrated anniversaries on this operation already, birthdays, wedding proposals, and an actual wedding happened as a result of this one event. It was scheduled to go on near the World Trade Center. The two people who were going to be married were Red Cross volunteers, and they went ahead with the ceremony.
They have decided to proceed and to refuse to allow their choices to be affected by the acts of terrorism that have gone on during the last week.
So, you know, in a time of all this calamity and whatnot, we can still see that there are still good things in life going on.
They came from all across the country, but Red Cross volunteers are really just neighbor helping neighbor. And New Yorkers took their new neighbors to heart.
But they've done an amazing job in New York. And for us, I think New Yorkers will always think of Red Cross in a different way.
Often I've been thanked, you know, personally by people on the subway or walking down the street. Thanks for coming. Where are you from? And I tell them, Toledo, Ohio. And one lady said, you know, you're a New Yorker and you don't even know it. You're going to move back to Ohio and move back. You know what? Everybody does. And I believe it. You know, it's a beautiful city.
Despite valiant efforts, Red Cross operations were not without controversy. Dr. Healy had established the Liberty Fund, solely for people affected by the September 11th attacks. Traditionally, donations go not only to the disaster at hand, but to other Red Cross efforts as well. However, many people were upset that the money raised would be used for other purposes. Following a public outcry, the Red Cross promised to spend the entire fund on victims of the disaster. After 2 years of service, Dr. Healy resigned, but not before having guided the charity organization through its finest hour.
Well, were you surprised? Have you been surprised at the outpouring of the American people, the amount of desire to help, to donate blood and donate their time?
You know, I'm not surprised because every time there has been this kind of difficulty, the American public has always risen to the occasion. Every time we go out and say, please, we need blood, they rise to the occasion. When we have hurricanes and floods, we go out and we say, we need you, they rise to the occasion. But what's different is, it is a whole national reawakening to the American Red Cross. And Joan, you know, I'm embarrassed almost to put us in the category of these wonderful firefighters and policemen who lost their lives in such numbers here. But Americans at times like this discover their heroic firefighters. They discover their heroic policemen. And they kind of rediscover the American Red Cross.
The images of disaster leave indelible marks on our hearts and minds, but just as powerful are the images of the countless volunteers who help people when they need it the most. I thank them and everyone at the American Red Cross. For A&E, I'm Joan Lunden.